dancing with death, humanity's most unexpected ally. For centuries, the concept of death was shrouded in myth, fear, and speculation. No one imagined that death could be anything other than a cold, impartial force carrying souls to the great beyond. But when humanity began its journey across the stars, encountering forces and phenomena that pushed the boundaries of life itself, they discovered that death was different. It all began with the crew of the starship Galileo, a deep space research vessel assigned to study an anomaly in an uncharted part of the galaxy. The anomaly was bizarre, a swirling cloud of particles pulsing with an unnatural energy, emitting waves that interfered with every sensor the Galileo's crew attempted to use. Commander Sarah Reyes peered through the reinforced glass at the anomaly. She felt a strange shiver run through her, a feeling that something or someone was watching her. The crew had already been on edge, the anomaly's strange energy affecting everything from their communications to even their perception of time. "Commander," whispered Dr. Elias Chen, the ship's chief scientist, breaking the heavy silence. "The readings are impossible. It's like there's a consciousness here." He tapped nervously on his tablet, scrolling through data that seemed to shift every few seconds, impossible to lock down. Just as Reyes was about to respond, the lights flickered, and the crew's breath caught in their throats. Slowly, like a silent dance, a figure materialized before them, tall, cloaked in robes of shimmering darkness, with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of eternity. The figure stood motionless. The crew stared, fear mingling with a strange, inexplicable calm that settled over them. This was death, or at least, what they imagined death might look like. Yet there was something inherently peaceful about its presence, almost familiar. Reyes found herself speaking, though she wasn't sure why. Are you here for us?" The figure inclined its head slightly, and when it spoke, its voice was like a whisper across the cosmos. "Not today, but I am curious." It paused, looking at each of them as if savoring the moment. "You humans have danced so close to my realm for so long, yet here you are, pushing beyond life itself. I had to see it for myself." Reyes was stunned. Death was curious, the idea was surreal, yet oddly endearing. "Why are we so interesting to you?" she ventured, trying to sound braver than she felt. Death's gaze softened, or perhaps it was her imagination. "Because you are unlike any other. You defy the limits of existence with a defiant spirit, while other species yield to my embrace. You dance with me. I thought it was time we formally met." At that moment, it struck them, they weren't being confronted by an enemy. Instead, they were meeting an ancient force intrigued by their resilience. Their spirit, death, it seemed, had come to see what humanity was truly made of. And, as the crew would soon discover, this was only the beginning of a journey with the most unexpected ally they could imagine. The crew of the Galileo stood in stunned silence as Death's ethereal form lingered before them, an ancient figure watching them with an intensity that was both unsettling and fascinating. Commander Reyes forced herself to breathe, feeling as though her heart was caught in her throat. She had expected many things in her career, but a face-to-face meeting with death itself wasn't one of them. "Why us?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want from humanity?" Death tilted its head, the edges of its cloak flickering like wisps of smoke. "Want? No, Commander Reyes, it is not want but wonder. Humanity has always intrigued me, ever since your kind first discovered fire and fought off the shadows of night, while others have surrendered to fear. You have danced. You face even the harshest ends with tenacity and defiance. I find it remarkable." Dr. Chen, regaining his composure, stepped forward, curiosity overcoming his fear. "But why show yourself now? We've been venturing into the unknown for centuries." A hint of amusement flickered in Death's otherworldly gaze. "You humans are reaching places even I struggle to follow. Your technology, your spirit, somehow, you've managed to tap into realms that bend the very fabric of life and death. I simply thought it polite to introduce myself before you stumble too far." The words hung in the air, and the crew exchanged glances, a mix of awe and apprehension on their faces. Reyes sensed a unique opportunity and stepped forward, feeling the weight of her next question. "If we're pushing the boundaries of life and death," she ventured, "then maybe you could help us understand it. There's so much suffering, so many questions about what lies beyond. Maybe you could, I don't know, guide us?" A low, gentle laugh rippled through the void, neither mocking nor dismissive but filled with ancient wisdom. "Ah, Commander, some things must remain mysteries, but I am willing to share some insight if you'll allow me a favor in return. The crew felt a collective shiver as Death's gaze grew intent, an energy filling the room that was both inviting and foreboding. Reyes nodded cautiously. We're listening. Death stretched out a shadowed hand, and in a flash, the crew found themselves in a world unlike any they'd ever seen. They stood in what looked like a vast ballroom, suspended in a cosmic ocean, with stars swirling like a river around them. There was no up, no down, just an endless expanse of existence, bending and blending in ways that defied logic. And in the center of it all, Death stood, a faint smile on its face as music, a melody older than the universe itself, began to play. Dance with me, Death said, its voice a soft invitation that somehow reached each of them, resonating in their bones. Allow me to show you the beauty of your journey, from life's beginning to its end. In awe, Reyes stepped forward, her movements cautious at first but gaining confidence. Slowly, the rest of the crew joined, their steps in sync with the rhythm of existence itself. They moved together, drawn in by Death's timeless presence, seeing glimpses of worlds and lives, of beginnings and endings, all woven together in an eternal dance. Through this surreal journey, they saw humanity's legacy, love, loss, triumph, and failure, all part of a grand symphony that Death, for the first time, invited them to understand. When the dance ended, they found themselves back on the bridge of the Galileo, forever changed. Death lingered for a moment, as if considering them with a new kind of respect. Remember this, humans, it murmured, its voice a whisper across eternity. Life and death are not enemies, they are partners in a dance older than time. Your resilience, your bravery, that's what makes you extraordinary. Keep dancing. And with that, Death faded into the void, leaving the crew of the Galileo with the profound understanding that the unknown wasn't something to fear but to embrace. They had touched the edge of eternity and returned, ready to face whatever awaited them next. The encounter with Death left the crew of the Galileo shaken but profoundly enlightened. 4 days after, they found themselves drifting back to that cosmic dance, each member unable to shake the beauty and mystery they'd glimpsed. Their sense of purpose had shifted subtly, as if Death had somehow planted a seed within each of them, a shared understanding that life and death were not opposing forces but two sides of the same eternal coin. Yet, Death's words lingered in Commander Reyes's mind. Allow me to show you the beauty of your journey, from life's beginning to its end. She began to wonder, was it possible to truly understand this dance? Had they been given a glimpse of something beyond comprehension, or was there more still to discover? Months passed, and the crew continued their exploration, the encounter becoming a distant yet treasured memory. But, one fateful day, a distress call echoed through their communication system, a colony on the edge of known space, trapped by a gravitational rift that threatened to tear their planet apart. The colony, named Haven's Reach, was inhabited by over 10,000 civilians, and they had mere hours before their world would collapse. The Galileo arrived as quickly as their engines would allow, finding Haven's Reach already slipping into chaos. The colony was caught in a violent gravitational storm, its structures cracking and shuddering under the strain. The sky was fractured, the stars distorted by the gravitational waves. Commander, if we enter that storm, the ship might not survive, warned Dr. Chun, worry creasing his brow. Reyes looked at her crew, the weight of thousands of lives pressing down on her. But just as doubt began to gnaw at her resolve, she remembered Death's words and the unspoken promise they had shared. This was their moment to dance, to defy the odds once more. She made her choice. We're going in. Lock onto the colony's coordinates and prepare for rescue operations, Reyes commanded, her voice firm. The Galileo plunged into the gravitational storm, its hull groaning under the pressure, sparks flying as the shields began to strain. But as they neared the colony, a familiar presence washed over them, like a shadow brushing against their minds. Death was near, watching, perhaps even waiting. We're with you, Commander, Death's voice whispered across her consciousness, a silent acknowledgement of her courage. With the crew working as one, they began teleporting civilians from the colony, risking their lives with each cycle as the gravitational rift intensified. Reyes herself led the final rescue party, sprinting through collapsing structures as the very ground beneath her feet began to crumble. In the background, she could feel Death's presence, like a silent guardian standing just beyond the veil, watching with quiet respect. One by one, the last of Haven's Reach's citizens were evacuated, Reyes among them, just as the Galileo prepared to leave. A final shockwave from the gravitational storm rocked the ship, sending it spiraling dangerously close to the rift. As Reyes braced herself, feeling the pull of the abyss, she heard Death's voice again, calm and gentle, "Trust me." And then, in an act of impossible grace, the Galileo seemed to slide through the storm, pulled gently by an invisible force, guided as if by unseen hands. They broke free, the planet disappearing behind them, swallowed by the rift just as they escaped. In the quiet aftermath, as the crew took stock of the miraculous rescue, Reyes sensed a familiar presence beside her. She looked up, and there was Death, an ethereal figure, nodding with a smile. "You have done well," Death whispered. "This is what makes humanity extraordinary, the courage to face the unknown, to risk everything for the lives of others. Our dance will continue, but remember, you are never alone." And with that, Death faded once more, leaving them with a sense of peace that resonated in their hearts. The crew of the Galileo carried that memory forward, each understanding that life was not to be measured in its end but in the boldness of its journey. In every step, in every decision, they were reminded of the dance they had begun, a dance that would last until their final breath and perhaps beyond. And so, humanity continued forward into the stars, dancing fearlessly on the edge of eternity, with Death not as an adversary but as a steadfast partner in their endless journey.